from my heart and from my hand. Why don't people understand my intention?
Hey, F14 Nation, it's Tim Sackett, and I'm back with a Weird Science videocast sponsored by our friends over at HireView in conjunction with us here at Fistful of Talent, when we're happy to have you guys back. For those who are coming in the first time, what we like to do is really talk about how we use data in HR, how we use the science behind hiring in general, not just data, but there's all kinds of science out there. And the folks at HireView have some great stuff as well, so make sure you check them out. Today, I'm going to bring in somebody I've known for a number of years and from a professional standpoint have really followed. He's currently the CHRO of Baker Tilly, and that's Charlie Judy. Charlie, how you doing?
What's going on, Tim? Thanks for having me today, man.
Yeah, hey, I'd love having you to come on. And yeah, as you can see in the background, he got his degree from Tulane. Charlie also is a CPA on top of being an SPHR, which is a unique combination for sure. Not a lot of us have that in the HR community.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone's ever actually done the study, but I'm thinking I'm in a small population there. So, rightfully so. I don't know that I would recommend that as a path for anybody, quite frankly.
And so one of the cool things I think, and one of the questions, my first question I had for you is based on the CPA background, based on the HR background. Give us your perspective on the data, right? Because you clearly have the business side and the HR side, and which so many of us are trying to get to. So give me your kind of some background on what you think we're doing right or wrong with data in HR.
Yeah, I mean, I think the quick answer is and I don't know if it's a right or wrong more than it is a missed opportunity, but I was predisposed to wanting to have a good stack of information in front of me and being able to kind of back up the theoretical with something that's a little bit more tangible. Most HR people I don't think are programmed that way. The good news is until recently, or over the last 5 to 10 years, the availability of that data and the ability for those that aren't predisposed to it or inclined to go after it to begin with, it's so much more at our fingertips.
Yeah.
I still don't think we're using it, though. I mean, I think the functionality is there. I think whether it's through the HRIS that we're using, whether it's because we've got another data mining capability behind the scenes, we still don't go after it enough. And if you think about the complexity of a human being and the number of the number of data points that could be attached to that human being, mm-hmm. We probably look at a quarter of those data points. We very quickly go after the demographics, and we go after the skill sets. Maybe we don't dive a lot deeper than that, and there's no reason why we can't. The capability exists. And in fact, some people have the systems that capture that data. It's still sitting on a shelf somewhere.
So why are we doing that? Normal, maybe not you and I, right? Because we probably dig into it a little bit more than most because we're geeky that way, which is fine. But why is a normal run-of-the-mill, HR pro in Deloitte, not Deloitte, in Duluth, sitting there running a 500-person shop or something? Why are they not getting to that level?
I mean, easily. I just don't think it's not muscle memory for us yet. I think we're learning that that's an important part of our business, but it's not our first play.
Yeah.
And I think for us traditionalists, or we traditionalists, that there's a little bit of a hesitation to cloud or muddy the human element with a bunch of data. You don't want to turn people into a stat sheet, but I think there's some value at the right time in doing it. So maybe it's about teaching our profession about when that right time is. And there's some really easy places where it fits in. Succession planning. And if you've got good data beyond instinct, when you're talking about who's your future leader, that helps your case, right?
Yeah.
The hiring phase, that's a natural place to plug it in. Comp, wow. I mean, if you can get good data around comp, whether it's compensation data itself, or whether it's data around performance, or whether it's data around market, all of those things, even there where it's natural for us or should be natural for us,
Yep.
I don't think we do it as much as we can.
Yeah, no, I know, the thing we hate most is when data gets in the way of our gut feelings, right?
Exactly. And that I think that's a great way to look at it, because if it doesn't mean that your gut goes away.
Yeah,
What it means though is that you can convince somebody else that your gut is actually more than just gut. I mean,
yeah,
if you can put some data behind it, then all of a sudden it's not your gut, it's actually proven.
yeah, no, definitely. I think that's one of those things where we always want to sit there and go, oh, don't use your gut, don't use your gut. No, that's the new way, right? Don't use your gut. But the reality is you do use your gut, you just use it in a different way. Now you're like going, hey, you should be more concerned about following what that gut is telling you to see if it's true or not, versus just saying, oh, I think it's true, it feels right, so we're going to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I love Gladwell's blink, that whole notion that we are processing all of this data instinctually, even though we don't know that we're doing it.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I think you can inform that instinct through data. It may not be what you refer to at that moment, but if you had a chance to look at it at some point, it's going to influence your gut along the way.
So I'm going to get to my next question. One of the things people probably don't know about you, you spent 15 years with Deloitte on the consulting side. And the big thing in consulting right now is this evidence-based HR, right? Which again goes back to the data and proving out. What did the consulting side teach you in terms of being a great HR corporate side person?
Yeah, I mean, that's, well, it's a loaded question. I mean, I think it taught me most about who I am today as an HR person. Um, if there's one thing, I think it is that you cannot approach any situation as a real HR professional the same way. There is there's no template. There's no, consultants are great about methodology.
Oh yeah,
They're great about following steps, but if you look at those steps, they're also designed to allow for flexibility and tailoring of the situation based on the client, all of the other environmental factors that come into play. I think we are inclined to go into a situation with a solution in mind,
yeah,
because someone's taught us that that's kind of the way things are in HR.
mm-hmm.
If you go to the situation with no solution and spend more time solving for or understanding the problem, define the problem first. The answer will come into play. I think we're prone to coming up with the answer way too quickly. And it's just nothing's that easy.
No, and when we're dealing with people, right? That's the hard part. Is every single situation comes in differently, which I think also from the process. I mean, so many, and to me, not necessarily the best HR people, but so many HR people in general want to be so process driven, and then so they just feel like, okay, here's what we do, here's what we, and then it's, oh, we don't want to set precedent, and I'm like, no, you set precedent every single time you do
Every
something.
single day.
So don't quit falling back on that, having to do the same thing every single time, because I think to me that turns you into a worse HR person. It's the thing when we talk about our organizations hating HR. That's why they hate HR, is because we try to put those things into that same framework every single time, and you just can't. You're dealing with real people.
Yeah, and I think along those lines, Tim, I mean, if you were to ask your question a little bit differently, one thing that organizations hate about consultants, particularly when they're at third parties, is when they come to the table with a nicely bound set of solutions and say, "Here, do this." What they really want you to do is come to the table with some options to say, "Well, we could do it this way, and let me tell you what happens if we do, or we could do it this way." They want to be part of the solution. They want you to give them options. I don't know that we come to the table with enough options. I think we're too, it's either got to be this or this. Well, there probably are a couple of variations to that in between.
No, and I think that's the best part. When I talk to HR pros and we speak and stuff, and when I say you need to be this consultant within HR, it's that kind of consultant, right? It's that's the one that people fall in love with and say there's a value there.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool,
yep.
Awesome. So before we got on, we were speaking about this notion. It's kind of around fit. But right now we're so concerned about organizational fit for hires, right? So we we're coming up with different assessments, we're coming up with different tools, different technology, spending a lot of time looking at the data, saying, is this person going to fit for us? But you brought up a great point. What was that?
Well, I think that the fit game is too one-sided at this point. I think the organization spends 10 times as much energy and effort assessing the candidate's fit for the organization than the candidate gets to assess for the organization. Mm-hmm. And the problem with that equation, I mean, it's like a poor buying decision. You know, if you don't have the information that you need, whatever you're buying, whether it's a car or a bike or a trip to Europe, you're going to end up returning it at some point along the way. Because, oh, I didn't know that. And I'd rather the buyer know it on the front end than 6 weeks into the situation. For some reason, we are inclined, well, for lots of reasons, corporate America, I think, is inclined to be more, it's not secretive, it's just we don't share authentically enough around what it's really like to be here, right? I mean, I can give you a glossy brochure. I can give you the party line. It's probable that the recruiter has given me a list of things that I can and can't say. But does the candidate leave that discussion with the information that they really need to make a decision themselves about whether or not they're going to be fit with the organization?
Yeah, and the candidate usually just sees the best version of the company, right? It's never going to see the worst version or even the middle version, the everyday version that most companies are going to see. And even with sites like Glassdoor and reputation type sites, you still don't get a true view of that. And I think there's some new technology coming out and people trying to. The problem is the money's not there on the candidate side because the candidates haven't figured out yet that, hey, this is what I want. And I think we're coming into this probably next decade or two where it's going to flip-flop, right? There's going to be more jobs than talent, and the talent's going to say, wait a minute, I can jump and jump and jump and jump, and I can have 100 jobs all year. The question is going to be, I don't want that. I want to have something that I'm a really great fit for. So now how can I do that? How can we marry it? I think there's definitely some room there for a lot of improvement and probably some technology to come to the forefront.
I think you're right, and then it goes back to our conversation around data. I mean, there is so much data. There are ways for organizations to take that data and then present it externally. Yeah. Let alone analyze it internally, such that again they're getting better fit. You're right around the imbalance of talent and opportunity going forward. Those free agents are, today. 9 out of 10 of prospective candidates, they want the job, right? They want a paycheck. So they're not going to be as discerning in most situations. If you're in the driver's seat, though, you ought to be able to make a more informed decision about what those choices are. I just don't think people can do it right now.
Yeah, cool. Hey, great conversation. I thank you very much, Charlie, for joining us. Make sure you check out Charlie Judy. You can find him on LinkedIn. He's a CHRO at Baker Tilly. Also, I want to thank you guys for stopping by. Thanks HireVue for paying the bills here and letting us keep the lights on and do this cool stuff over at Fistful of Talent. So that's what we have. We're out. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Tim.
From my heart and from my hand, why don't people understand my intention?